What's up YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I am going to show you 5 decks that I think are the very best in the Pokemon TCG standard format right now for January and February 2021. Not only will this show you 5 great decks that you should try for yourself, it will also give you a taste of what your opponents might be playing because these decks have been successful and popular in recent events. Before we hop into that, if you're looking for PTCGO codes, be sure to check out PotownStore.com, the best place to get PTCGO codes, and be sure to use code Celio for 5% off. Without further ado, let's check out what I think the 5 best decks are in the Pokemon TCG standard format as of January 2021. It should come as no surprise to anyone that's been following recent standard format events that Pikarom is going to be in my top 5 list for the best decks in standard format right now. Pikarom has been consistently performing very well across all levels of tournaments, from small online tournaments to larger money online tournaments to even the Pokemon's official Players Cup 2, which a very similar list to this had won. So Pikarom's really strong because it is consistent thanks to Boltund V getting it powered up with lightning energy, having a Coco Prism to accelerate energy, the speed lightning energy, and also it has a lot of tools to use. So I mentioned a few of those tools just now, but lightning, even though Electropower and Thunder Mountain got rotated out, Boltund V is such a huge boon to Pikarom and its success. So the Pikarom archetype, it is referred to as Pikarom, but there are several attackers here in the deck. Boltund V has the Electrify attack that allows you to search for up to 2 lightning energy from your deck and attach them to your Pokemon in play. And then it has the Bolt Tackle attack, which does more energy for every lightning energy you have on your board. So the Electrify attack and the Bolt Tackle attack go very well together. A typical game of Pikarom will begin with Electrify, followed by Full Blitz to get even more energy on the board while dealing damage this time. And then Boltund will come in after you've accelerated even more energy with that Full Blitz to do a lot of damage with its 2 energy attack. Raichu and Alolan Raichu tag team is also one of the reasons why Pikarom has been able to stand the test of time with these new VMAX Pokemon coming out. Its Tandem Shock attack has been very important to Pikarom's success because it can paralyze the opponent's Pokemon. Now this is so strong because you can couple that with a Reset Stamp to put them to a low hand size, possibly 3, 2, or even 1 cards. And if you can also put Chaotic Swell out there to stifle fire decks from using Giant Hearth, this paralysis can be the end of the game for them, and you can end up just knocking out their big powerhouse VMAX they had in the active because it was paralyzed last turn and left unable to do anything. So this Pikarom list is kind of the standard right now. Most Pikarom lists are playing somewhere between 2 to 4 Boltund, 1 or 2 Mewtwo and Mew, the 2 Dedenne, 2 Pikarom, 1 Raichu. That's all very standard. The supporter line is typically 4 Morny, 4 Research, and then 3 or 4 Boss. 4 Crushing Hammer is very common to see. 1 or 2 Chaotic Swell, 10 or 11 Basic Lightning, 3 or 4 Speed Energy. And then some people have been experimenting with 1 Tag Switch or 1 Tag Switch and 1 Energy Switch, but here in this list you'll see 2 Energy Switch. So of course change up those counts how you like and how it works out for you, but this is kind of the most typical Pikarom list, and it is one that Mike Fouché piloted to a first place finish recently in a large online tournament. The next deck is ADP Zacian, which is another very popular standard format deck that I'm sure you're familiar with if you've been following Pokemon TCG standard format recently. ADP, or Arceus Dialga Palkia tag team, came out in the Cosmic Eclipse set and then was then coupled with Zacian V when that came out in the Sword and Shield base set. The duo have been a powerhouse deck pretty much ever since that release. So Arceus Dialga Palkia is the core focus of the early game for this deck. You want to use Alter Creation GX for a metal and water energy, and the attack reads, for the rest of this game, your Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon if this Pokemon has at least 1 extra water energy attached to it. When your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from those attacks, take 1 more prize card. So this deck focuses on boosting your Pokemon's attacks and the rate at which you take prize cards with Alter Creation on turn 1 or turn 2. And then from there, you just take knockouts with Ultimate Ray on ADP or Brave Blade on Zacian V. So you want to win the game by just knocking out two prize Pokemon like the Dene GX Crobat V and Eldegoss V, which are so popular in a lot of decks. And you have Mawile GX to help with that because its ability allows you to look at your opponent's hand when you play it down and then play down any basic Pokemon from their hand onto their bench as long as they have bench room. So even if it's like turn 1, you can play down Mawile GX and see if your opponent has a Dedenne, snatch that out of their hand and make them bench it for no effect with the Dedenne change. Now you have a very weak Pokemon on your opponent's bench that you can gust up with either Boss's Orders or Great Catcher and then knock out with Ultimate Right or Brave Blade. So this deck focuses on, like I said, gusting up things and knocking it out for 3 prizes. So this deck is naturally going to play 4 Boss's Orders and 1 Great Catcher. I tend to like the Zacian ADP lists that do play 4 Zacian and 4 Boss's Orders, 4 Energy Switch, 2 Dedenne, 2 Crobat, to just be as consistent as possible. This is a list that got top 16 in a recent online tournament, and it does have a few of those attributes I mentioned. This list did take out some cards to fit in the 4 Crushing Hammers, which has been successful, so I definitely wanted to include it here. I'm personally not a huge fan of playing 4 Crushing Hammer in ADP Zacian because I like being linear to try to just be consistent and win the game by saying Boss's Orders, knock that out, Boss's Orders, knock that out. But Crushing Hammer is really great against decks like Eternatus that just focus on manually attaching energy. ADPZ has been one of the strongest decks in Standard, and we'll see if that changes anytime soon before the main cards get rotated. Number 3 in this video is going to be Eternatus VMAX. Now there are 2 different variants for Eternatus VMAX, and we'll look at both of them today. Let's start with the poison variant of Eternatus VMAX. So Eternatus VMAX is 340 HP VMAX Pokemon, and its Dread End attack swings for 270 damage if you have a full bench of Dark Pokemon, and its ability allows you to have 8 Dark Pokemon at a time on your bench as opposed to 5. So for just 2 energy, you're swinging for 270, and that's almost knocking out ADP. That's knocking out Mewtwo and Mew. It's knocking out Pikarom. It's knocking out Raichu and Raichu. You can start to see why it's good because it's one-shotting or just about one-shotting all of the Pokemon that I just talked about in the previous 2 decks in this video. Toxicroak allows you to make your opponent's poison damage do more damage to them, and then you apply that poison damage with Galarian Slowbro V's ability when it's in the active. So you're playing Dark City and you're playing Force Switch, so you can get that Galarian Slowbro V into the active, apply the poison, and get out of there so you can swing with Eternatus VMAX. If you have multiple Toxicroak in play, that ability is applying multiple times. So if you have no Toxicroak, poison is doing 1 damage counter between turns to your opponent. If you have 1 Toxicroak, it's doing 3 damage counters. If you have 2 Toxicroak, it's doing 5 damage counters between turns. So you have 2 Toxicroak, you've applied poison with Slowbro V, and you swing with Eternatus for a full bench of 8. That's 270 damage plus 5 for the poison. That's 320 damage altogether. So that can even one-shot something huge like a Centiskorch VMAX on the other side of the board. Let's take a look at the other variant of Eternatus, which this is typically referred to as straight Eternatus or Eternatus plants, if you do play the power plants, which this list is including here. So again, you'll see that the main focus is Eternatus VMAX, this list playing a 4-4 line, whereas the other was playing 4-3, and there's no support stage 1 Pokemon. The main support Pokemon here is Galarian Zigzagoon dealing extra damage for you, as opposed to the Galarian Slowbro V Toxicroak combination. Now that combination may be able to apply more damage, but it takes up much more room. And it also means you have to play the Dark City switch combo to make sure you're getting that Galarian Slowbro in and out of the active spot to apply the poison. So this list is playing 3 Power Plant, giving you a different sort of utility out of your stadium slot in the deck. So Galarian Zigzagoon's Headbutt Tantrum applies 1 damage counter to one of your opponent's Pokemon when you play it down, and that is how you're going to add some extra chip damage to the Dread End attack from Eternatus VMAX. The 4th deck I'll talk about in this video is Centiskorch VMAX. So this deck focuses on powering up your Centiskorch VMAX with things like Volcanion's Flare Starter attack and using the Welder supporter to accelerate energy directly from your hand, so that Centiskorch VMAX can do a ton of damage with Gmax Centiferno. Gmax Centiferno reads, this attack does 40 more damage for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. If you did any damage with this attack, you may attach a fire energy card from your discard pile to this Pokemon. So for 2 colorless, which is always going to be 2 fire energy in this deck. You're doing a base stat of 40 damage and then 40 more for each energy. So let's say you have 2 energy on this Pokemon, you're doing 120, and that's at the minimum. You're then able to attach an extra fire energy from the discard to this Pokemon when you attack. So next turn, as long as you attach a single energy from hand, you're doing a minimum of 200. So between those 2 turns, you're guaranteed to do at least 120 damage, even if you missed most of your energy acceleration, which makes this deck really good because even at its worst, it's still doing a very considerable amount of damage. The rest of the deck is just built around helping Centiskorch VMAX function as optimally as possible. So you have Jirachi Stellar Wish to try to get your Welders and your Fire Crystal and your Giant Hearth. You have Crobat V and Dedenne GX to just draw any cards you can. Volcanion, like I mentioned, Flare Starter to attach energy. Galarian Zigzagoon to add a little bit of damage, and there is a little bit of a Scoop Up Net package going on in here because Scoop Up Net is good for getting the Jirachi out of the active when you Stellar Wish. So you also have some other Pokemon that go well with Scoop Up Net, like Galarian Zigzagoon to apply damage, Giratina to get special energy off of your opponent's board, and some people do choose to use the Mewtwo with Mind Report, but Cash here is using Eldegoss V instead. Lastly, we will be looking at the only deck in this video that at one point was focused around a single prize attacker, but now it's actually focused around multi-prizers almost more than the Blacephalon itself. So this deck might still be called Baby Blounce or Blacephalon, but it's looking more and more like a Firebox every day. Recent successful lists have been including 1-2 Cramorant V for its Spit Shot attack, which can snipe the Dennes, or even with the help of Zigzagoon can snipe Eldegoss and Crobat, as well as the Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX that has 270 HP, and for its 4 energy attack, Flare Strike swings for 230. For its Double Blaze GX at its lowest amount of damage does 200 for 3 energy, and if you can get 6 energy onto Reshizard, it swings for 300 damage with Double Blaze GX. It's honestly built quite similar to Centiskorch VMAX with the Scoop Up Net engine, the Jirachis, the Zigzagoon, the Mewtwo that I mentioned. Some decks even use in the Centiskorch VMAX lists as well, but this does have a single prize attacking option, and it's all basic attackers, which are the 2 main differences between this and Centiskorch VMAX. So those are the 5 decks that I think are the very best right now in the Pokemon TCG standard format as of January to February 2021. If you want to see more videos like this and maybe even some videos about rogue decks that can beat these 5 best decks, please let me know what you think about that in the comments section down below. These are not the only decks that are going to be successful at tournaments, but I do think they're the most popular and the most likely to be successful at the time of recording this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already for daily Pokemon TCG content, and check out PotownStore.com. Use code Celio for 5% off. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.